Sarkar Meher Baba ki jai. Let's share the screen. So we start with Hafiz. So Ashok ji, shall we start with Hafiz?
Definitely.
Thank you. Please.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Three of Meher Baba's favorite couplets of Hafiz, a mystical Persian poet. Befitting a fortunate slave, carry out every command of the master without any question of why and what. About what you hear from the master, never say it is wrong, because, my dear, the fault lies in your own incapacity to understand him. I am slave of the master who has released me from ignorance. Whatever my master does is of the highest benefit to all concerned. Hafiz. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
So birthday wishes to Bobby G. So that good to know. Many happy returns of the day. Belated. Ashok.
Thank you. I will convey
So
that. He must be around somewhere, but anyway.
yeah, no, sure, no problem. So where are we? So I think I was just thinking about it when I opened the call. Till you record stuff, and Ashok knows this better than us. Till you record, you never know the impact and scale of things, right? So if somebody had asked me how many weeks we've been reading Sobs and Throbs, I wouldn't have an answer. But if you look at it, we have done very well. We have only done 7 sessions, and we are almost more than 80% of the book done. So 160 of the 190 pages. So again, the point is, I think recording literally as a video, recording the metadata of our calls, capturing information as to pages, what we're doing, how many times we're reading, when are we stopping. All of this is, I think, interesting, and sometimes I wonder if it's even worth it. But I think I have a little bit of an accountant in me. Sure.
More than accounting.
Phenomenal. It's phenomenal, and the amount of effort which goes into it, and it has a full account or a record of whatever we have done, and it can be shared with others and be left for posterity. So I think it's a great job.
Yeah. I mean, I think the test of that is if it is used by others. So let's not go around getting too excited about the potential till it actually translates to some actuality. Yes, the potential exists for it to be used by others. The potential exists for it to be used by others at any time, not necessarily when they are on the call. So those are the possibilities. Anyway, so
beyond this structured reading is a lot better than reading on our own.
Self-reading.
So because yes, that is the takeaway from all of us.
Yeah. No, so I was very skeptical, right? So when I came into the Baba world very, very early on, I used to be this curious person trying to find out, okay, so what happens here? What are the actions? What are the events? What's the frequently occurring thing? And the only thing I heard all over the world, oh, we have this little book reading group, we have this group there, we have that group there. And to me, that was not even a thing, because to me, reading was private, honestly. Okay. Reading was private, and reading was something that you enjoy. And I race through, I read very fast. So I never assumed that I would like a group setting for a reading. But I totally echo what you say. I enjoy being part of this, not for anything else, but the learning opportunity that it offers, and the aspects and features of the book that you would miss otherwise, the discussion thoughts that we probably would not have considered if you just race through the book. That's the difference. And quite honestly, for the 40 plus years of my reading, I have never read the front and the back parts of the book. I am now very careful. I read that. I read the publisher's notes. I read copyrights because all that is important. But as a private reader, you never care about these things. So yeah, it's been a fascinating journey of learning, and more than learning, sharing the learning. Right. So I like it. Okay, enough of Gyangiri. Where are we? We are, as I said, we did 7 sessions. We are in session number 8. We stopped at the completion of chapter 21, and we are now in chapter 21. We actually saw the third visit, I think, of Ali, and then we also ended with the group, the breakup of the group, and where we saw that there was literally multi-religious and of course multi-caste, multi-panth grouping of people here, and that's where it ended. Okay, so let's get started with 22. Either of you who want to read one chapter can start, and I can read as well, whichever order.
Karthik, should I read?
Yeah, please. Jai Baba.
Chapter
Over to you.
Jai Baba, chapter 22, the pulsating impulse. In 20 days after Ali's third exit, as if by a magic wand, the Meher Ashram was completely re-established at its original site near the village of Arangaon, and the general situation was restored to its previous condition in every detail. The only important change brought about the institution with regard to the secular education imparted therein was, instead of the matriculation examination course, English alone was decided to be taught to the Ashramites. The spiritual side of the course maintained without any change. The parents and guardians of the boys who had been sent home on leave were communicated with and asked to send in their boys, provided they had no objection whatever to this change. The popularity of the Meher Ashram in general and the attraction it possessed for its inmates in particular may well be judged from the circumstances that, in spite of being left completely free from the direct influence of the master and enjoying a holiday at home without any disciplinary restraints, the majority of the boys literally began to rush back to the institution at the first opportunity, and their parents and guardians showed no less confidence towards it, as in view of great change effected in the material side of the training in the Meher Ashram. They nevertheless willingly allowed their boys to rejoin it. It was therefore no wonder that each day in the second week of December saw a number of youngsters returning to Mehrabad with their guardians and their written consents. But instead of the boy whose presence and absence meant so much to the Meher Ashram, it was his father who came rushing to Mehrabad on the 13th of December in search of Ali, who he said had again slipped away. After being taken away for the third time, Ali was put into a school near Sandhurst Bridge at Bombay under a constant and careful watch. In spite of it, he managed to slip away in the afternoon of 12th of December during a recess period, and the sight of the school helped him to make short work of his dash for the Victoria terminus. Not knowing at what moment he might get an opportunity for an escape, Ali had well studied the railway timetables, and so finding the Pune Express ready by the platform, he at once decided upon a plan. In order to get as many miles as possible between himself and Bombay, he came by his train to Lonavala, which is a hill station 80 miles from Bombay. Passing a few pleasant hours as a welcome guest of one of the local disciples of the master, He came to the station to board the Madras mail, which leaves Lonavala at about 12:45 a.m. But for a single carriage, all the other third-class compartments in the train were found to be overcrowded, so he jumped into the former. He was naturally in the best of spirits at this juncture when a fellow passenger inquired as to what station it was. Ali literally shouted that it was Lonavala, but at the same moment he happened to see, to his horror, his own father in the very compartment, trying to locate the direction from whence came the familiar voice. Of course, Ali was out of the carriage with a bound through the opposite door, landing on the other side of the train, and under cover of darkness made good his escape. It was, it was therefore no mystery that Mr. Hazi Mohammed did not find Ali at Mehrabad that day. Probably it was due to sheer exasperation that the gentleman, before beating a retreat, asked the ashram authorities to readmit Ali in the institution when he returned, and also give him a fresh promise not to disturb him again. He escaped from the grasp of his father in the nick of time. Ali preferred to remain at Lonavala for another 24 hours and arrived at Mehrabad on the following day to hear the good news that once again his father had consented to let him remain in the ashram. His father was duly informed about his arrival and readmission to the Meher Ashram. But the most remarkable return to the institution at this juncture was that of Ahmed Muhammad, one of those boys who had been taken away with Ali on the 19th of August from Toka. In spite of their best attempts during 4 months, his relatives could not succeed in making him forget his Baba. To the contrary, on Sunday, the 23rd of December, Ahmed had suddenly a great impulse to return to the master. And since the way in which he put his impulse into action provides a fresh, tangible interpretation of the sobs and throbs, I would describe it fully. Without providing himself with the bedding, food, or money, he simply started off for Ahmednagar on foot on that very day. He began by selling the 3 silver buttons in his shirt for 3 annas to a stranger and came to Dadar by tram, paying 1 anna as a fare. With just those remaining 2 annas and the clothes on his body, he set out on the tramp in the scorching sun of that Sunday afternoon. He had walked about 12 to 14 miles when it became quite dark. Being quite inexperienced, he did not think of stopping in the village in time and had thus no other alternative but that of passing the night where he was. Thinking a tree to be safer, he climbed one along the road and made himself as comfortable under the circumstances as possible. It goes without saying that he did not sleep soundly throughout the night, since a branch of a tree to lie on, the clouds in the sky as the only covering, and the lone spot on the highway in the wintry night is not quite a comfortable situation to induce sound sleep. On the contrary, the very fact that the boy could somehow pass the night under such circumstances speaks for the motive force behind him is this apparently offhand venture on his part. The bullock carts, as is well known, generally begin to move about very early in the morning and are, as a rule, the first to rumble on a road. Hence, it was still very dark when some passing carts announced the dawn of a new day to Ahmed. He climbed down from his perch and began to follow the carts. The sunrise Master Ahmed, by sunrise, I'm sorry, by sunrise, Master Ahmed reached Thana. Having only 2 annas about him, he dared not spend more than 2 pice for the breakfast, so he had to satisfy himself with a few cold, crisp biscuits and a handful of water. Thus refreshed, this little lover of Baba continued his tramp. Nearing Panvel, a Mussulman innkeeper, taking pity on the lonely and haggard looking boy, offered to help him a lift in one of the passing motor buses. But as he still had sufficient energy to carry on, he politely, but in no uncertain terms, refused the offer. At noon, he reached Panvel. Feeling very hungry, as needs he must have been walking uh, for so long and having had no food save those few biscuits during the last 24 hours. But viewing the contents of the poor purse, he had to remain content with 2 pice worth of sweets. A little rest under the shade of a tree, however, made him take the road again. When, when to the lack of food, want of sleep, and absence of many more comforts which a human being requires in the ordinary course of his life, the scorching sun was added. Amos found it too much for his great determination after having walked some 8 or 9 miles more. His soul still wanted to strive on, but after all that, soul was caged in a small little body that could stand the strain no longer. He began to appeal for a lift to every motorist that passed, though it was all a cry in the wilderness. But perseverance succeeds. The 10th car that stopped in response to his hoarse shout belonged to a European gentleman going to Pune. Grasping the helplessness of the boy and his apparently hopeless task of covering the rest of the 63 miles to Pune on foot, the gentleman was kind enough to bring Ahmed in his car to Pune. This was something beyond the wildest dreams for Ahmed to reach Pune so soon. And this God sent encouragement infused new energy into him to face another cold night on a starvation diet consisting of a handful of nuts which he bought for 1 pice. First, he tried to sleep on a bench along a public road, but the cold winds sent shivers through his poorly protected body, and so he made himself as snug as possible in the corner of a building and somehow passed the second night half dozing and half sleeping. At daybreak, at daybreak on Tuesday, Ahmed picked up his courage to start again on the tramp. It was now nearly 40 hours that he had not partaken any food worth the name. Still, his first thought was to pay his respects to the master of his master, Her Holiness Hazrat Babazan of Pune. He also knew the grave risk he was running by going to Hazrat Babazan's place, as there were a number of Mughal tea shops in the vicinity. Still, he wound his way as cautiously as possible and came near the seat of Hazrat Babazan. Her Holiness was, to all appearances, sleeping at the time, with the coverings well wrapped around her person. But the moment Ahmed quietly bore towards her from a distance, she gave him a look of love by suddenly taking her august head out of the coverings. And no sooner Ahmed had experienced a wonderful thrill of a miracle, her Holiness put herself under cover and to a casual observer went to sleep again. Here was another encouragement for this little lover to go on with his labor of love. Now he bought a little bread for 2 pice and started from Pune, eating the breakfast while walking on towards dawn along the railway lines. About the 12th mile, probably to avoid the monotonous atmosphere of the railway lines, Ahmed again took to the public road, but the impulse that brought him on this public road seems more to have been a subtle inspiration from the master who wanted to provide him food, as Ahmed very soon overtook an old man on the road going along the same direction. He was an old Hindu and Ahmed was a little Mughal, but The psychology of human affinity under circumstances of common suffering and hardships knows no man made laws. The two became friends. The old man, being experienced, soon decided to halt for the hottest hours under the shade of a tree. He had not only induced Ahmed to follow suit, but also made him share his bread and chutney freely, and thus, after 48 hours, Ahmed got something substantial to eat. In the afternoon, the skewer pair started again. By dusk, they reached a village where the old Hindu, after advising Ahmed to take shelter in the village mosque, went away to some other place. Ahmed was allowed by the mosque people to sleep in the premises, thus he got a good shelter on the third night. Still, through lack of covering and bedding in the cold of the night, he could not sleep well, and it did not require effort on his part to get up long before the sun rose over the village. With a number of dogs barking after him and fumbling here and there in the dark, Ahmed somehow reached the main road and began his tramp again on Wednesday morning. He felt very hungry that day as he had a spare meal since he started on Sunday, and consequently found the tramp very trying. He tried to get a lift once again in the passing motor vehicles, but none helped him, and perforce the poor boy had to take recourse to the tamarind trees along the road. Eating the leaves and the tamarinds, he somehow walked about 16 miles and reached the railway station of Patas. He found himself dog tired and as hungry as a wolf. Still, after a little rest, through sheer force of will, he walked 6 more miles along the road lines and reached the station of Dons.
Okay. Do you recognize this place? I don't recognize Patas. Maybe it's there near down. But what a journey. Still traveling. Yeah.
Would somebody else want to read, or I should continue?
Yeah. Continue. Maybe I think this chapter.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
tried to sleep on the platform benches of the station and forget the great fire of hunger raging within him. But as was likely to happen, he could not rest, far short of getting a nap. For the first time, he could think of begging and approached a Mussulman gentleman with a request for some food. Just give me a minute, 1 second.
Let me pick up, maybe to relieve you. The latter
Okay.
at once conducted him to the refreshment room and ordered rice and curry for him. In order to avoid meat, he surprised his benefactor by preferring to partake of only tea and bread. Thus refreshed, Ahmed fell for the first time into a sound sleep in the warm atmosphere of the station premises. But he was not destined to enjoy it for long. Soon, a policeman came along and drove him out of the station. Ahmed passed the rest of the night under a staircase near the station, where the master comforted him with his holy presence in a dream. On the following morning, Thursday, while inquiring for the road to Ahmednagar, someone suggested to him to go by train without a ticket. But he evaded the suggestion and continued the tramp along the railway lines. He kept on he kept on walking in sun without food and halted at a wayside station, which he reached by. Hence, no wonder that he felt hungry. However, he had no need to beg again for food. An old lady on the platform, probably a passenger waiting for the train, provided him with an unsolicited square meal. Having been driven from the platform in the dead of the night at dawn, Ahmed again thought of a tree to sleep on. But he soon had to climb down on account of a nightmare which made him think that a black snake was about the tree. It was then nearly midnight, and the cold, screeching winds were too much to bear in the open air. So he tried to make a fire. He gathered up some straw and dried leaves about the place, but to his great disappointment, found that the matches he had bought at Thana would not ignite through wear and tear. In such a situation, he dared to take refuge again on the station, where happily he was allowed to pass the remainder of the night. On Friday, the sixth day, Ahmed restarted on his sacred journey at daybreak, eating the jawari plants from the adjoining fields whenever he felt a great pinch of hunger. He kept on walking briskly till he came in sight of the Meher Ashram, which was still some miles ahead. He once more begged not for food, but for some flowers from a gardener. The master is not only well known, but is held in great reverence by the surrounding village people. And thus, when the gardener came to know for whom the boy wanted the flowers, he presented Ahmed with handfuls of wild roses. The lovelorn lad forgot all about his great fatigue and hunger in the joy of preparing a crown out of these flowers for the king of his heart. And thus it was nearly sunset, and the master was seated amongst some disciples near the very crypt of a room in which His Holiness had confined himself last year, that a boy suddenly crept in unannounced, and before anyone could even recognize him, had fixed a wreath of roses on the golden ringlets of His Holiness. I, for one, could not place that haggard and hollow-eyed face in my memory at the moment until I was actually told that it was Master Ahmed. That is chapter 22, the story of Muhammad Ahmed, or Ahmed Muhammad, who escapes from school in near Sandhurst Bridge and makes his way to um, the ashram. And of course, we also read how Ali has come back with his father, finally acceding to his son's wishes, and in fact telling him that he can be in school. So this is the fourth stint of Ali, and
Yes.
that is what is covered in 22. Any
The
thoughts
last,
as we get into?
there is a pun on the last line, I think.
Oh, really?
Master Ali.
Until I was actually told that it was Master Ahmed. I, for one, could not
Master
place
Ahmad.
that haggard and hollow-eyed face in my memory at the moment until I was actually told it was Master Ahmed. I didn't get it.
Master Ahmad. So there is a pun on that word. He is the boy, but still
Mhm.
he is a master in search of his, say, master.
Okay, Master as not the young form of Mister, but
Yes,
also in a spiritual sense,
yes, yes.
somebody on the path. Okay, yeah, correct. Interesting. So let's continue. Any one wants to read? Babaji, you
I
want to
can
read?
read.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
sure. 23 Messengers of Love.
Chapter
Jai Baba.
23, Jai Baba, Messengers of Love. With the re-establishment at its original site once again, all began to go on well with the Meher Ashram. Be it said to the credit of the Mehrabad authorities that in spite of such drastic change from one place to another, the school remained closed only for a single week. Although, on account of the change brought in the curriculum, it no longer remained a high school. Yet, the Hazrat Babajan English School could boast now of a debating club which enabled many of its little members to give expression to their thoughts, though not quite in correct English, unflinchingly before their teachers and fellow students. Scroll down. Jai Baba. Yeah. The master also resumed taking interest in all affairs as usual and brought his in uh, in retreat. What's brought his retreat to an end. He began moving about freely all over the colony and through his usual gestures spoke with the disciples and visitors whenever they approached him. The boys of the original section also got the pleasure and benefit of his august presence amongst them every evening. Yet, for all that, His Holiness continued paying the lion's share of his attention to the Premashram inmates. The most remarkable point about the master's working for the Premashram boys during this period of 1 month was that His Holiness began to cleanse their latrines from the 17th of December. The only person that His Holiness allowed to assist him in this task was his younger brother, Mr. Jal Sheriar, who is not only one of the chief supervisor of the Premashram, but also as keen about and interested in it as to be next to the master. Thus, to the future saints in the Premashram who were taught humility in words, this so-called menial but by no means pleasant work of a sweeper that the master did, also taught humility in deeds besides serving whatever other spiritual purpose His Holiness might have had in view. It might be added that such kind of work on the part of a God realized personality is rare but not unparalleled. And to give a recent example, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa is also said to have worked as a sweeper. The reader might have marked the peculiarity that since its inception, the institution went through a complete new phase almost every month or 40 days. Hence, when the master began to let out hints at the beginning of the new year 1929 about going on a walking tour and closing the Meher Ashram completely, but temporarily for some time, it did not seem to very strange to most of the disciples. It can fairly be said that none were prepared to see the hints turn into action so soon as the 12th of January. Not only did the master announce his final decision to act upon his hints, but actual preparations were completed the same day to spend away all the boys of both the section of the ashram, including those two had come from Persia to their guardian's place on the following day. Being in possession of all the facts about institution in their correct sequence, I was naturally very much puzzled about the question of Ali, that after all the trouble when his father had at last allowed Ali to remain in the ashram and given a fresh promise not to disturb him again, he should be sent back to his father's place appeared to me quite unthinkable. Hence, my surprise may well be imagined when I went up to the ashram the following morning, the morning of the fateful 13th of January. It was the master himself who conveyed to me Aga Ali's father was again taken him away only a little while ago. You can see now the closing of the ashram has some connection with Ali. The first thought that crossed my mind was to remember the ringing words of the master. These Mughals are word breakers and not to be trusted. When better example could one cite as to how irreligion is practiced by many in the name of religion. Some of the Orthodox Mughals think it irreligious to allow their little one to enjoy the grace of a God realized personality who is above all religions. But alas, they conveniently forget the injection of the Holy Quran. The believers are those who keepers of their covenants, XQI to it, and fulfill the promise I bid V1. Now, in the light of this episode, there are no mystery surrounding the end of the Meher Ashram in its original conception from the viewpoint of its narrative. It rather reminds us of the words of the Master conveyed some 11 months ago, which, if Ali goes, all go. And it really so happened that Ali was really the first to go out of the Meher Ashram on the morning of the 13th January, while all the rest followed him later on the same day. A word as to the sorrow and pain the little but real lovers of the Master felt at the thought of the separation will not be out of place here. It was been truly said that Quadi Sineara Ishq Hasto Tard Nist. That is, angels have all love but no pain. And what is this pain about? The divine love that is only destined for the human beings? It is the pain of separation, or in the other words, the restlessness for union, which even the angels do not possess. It is unbearable and beyond description, yet a loving soul can bear it, can bear it. Hence, I would only say this much, that some of the boys did feel this pain whilst bidding a touching goodbye to the master that day. But they exhibited sublime submission to his divine command instead of spirit of reactionary revolt that they used to display in the primal state of their love. Some of them were perhaps separated to enhance the stage that no longer needed the physical contact of master. Some have since been recalled, but all the Meherashram boys of both its sections, as a matter of fact, were that day let loose over the country with a silent message of divine love that will sooner or later speak for itself. By way of a farewell meeting, I am sure the reader would like to be introduced some of the leading messengers of love, besides those already acquainted with him in the course of this narrative. We shall begin with Master Vasant B. Kimbavane, a Brahmin lad aged 14 years. He was the first boy in the Meher Ashram to begin whipping up for love, and the last boy who was remained whipping to this day. Of course, it is thereby never meant that he is whipping all the time throughout the 24 hours. Rather, the moment he comes before the master, tears begin to roll down his cheeks. So silent are the throbs of his heart that not the least. Scroll down a little bit, Karthik. Jai Baba. Okay. A sign of sob is perceptible about him when he cries. It is a wonderful sight to see him crying, standing like a statue without any sign of emotion on his face or a mark of restlessness about his body, looking towards the master with dreamy and moist eyes that go on shedding pearls one after the other until the master goes away from him. And this peculiar manifestation of divine love about him is not an occasional affair. It has almost become his second nature, be he walking, sitting, eating, or engaged in any other way. He has only to count his eye on the master, and they began to fill with tears instantly. It has been said that Ali once cried because others did not obey the master. But the master Vasant surpasses him in this respect. At once he was found smacking himself vigorously till mm, he was actually forced to stop it. And the reason for this self-imposed punishment was this, that the whipping, Vasant could not bear the sight of one of the boys behaving rudely with the master. Of all the things, he likes best to be allowed to remain with his head pressed against the lotus feet of the master for hours together. When once he, he was asked about the most cherished desire of his heart, this great lover replied, I want nothing, I want to give, and I want to give my life to Baba. When that is done, I shall desire for another life to be laid at his feet again. This is all the more wonderful since he is not of a docile nature. He is fiery. He is fiery as a tiger. During the period of the
He is as fiery as tiger.
he is
Fiery.
fiery as a tiger. Okay. During the period of the inevitable reaction, he had once made a grown-up overseer in the Prema Ashram roll in the dust with a single push. He is no less intelligent and has a passion for poetry which he can remember after hearing but once. Can you scroll down, Karthik? Jai Baba?
I think for some reason your refresh rate is very slow. I immediately scroll
Oh,
down. Anyway, so
oh,
read
or
again
once,
from
or
he's no less intelligent and has a passion for poetry.
he is
From
no
there,
less intelligent
yeah.
and has a passion of poetry which he can remember after hearing but once or twice. Nay, he is a poet himself and at times can compose fine lines in the style of Tukaram Baba and Naneshwari Maharaj. His profound consideration for the master may well be judged by the fact that once, when he got dysentery, he did not disclose the fact in order not to cause any trouble to the master, who he knew too well would personally involve himself in the matter of a treatment and nursing. In spite of passing 30 stools, Vasant managed to conceal his malady till his condition was actually detected by one of the overseers. His love, restlessness is matchless, and none of the others can surpass him in this respect. But in spite of having the greatest restlessness in appearance, he looks exceptionally calm and composed. Generally, he looks the very picture of seriousness as he is continuously deeply engrossed in meditation about the master. He remained thus even when sent home, where he used to look as if he were almost dumb, since he would again scroll down, since he would generally speak in monosyllables with the parent and relatives. In short, in the words of the master, he is almost sent already. Master Aspandir Sarosh Irani may well be congratulated on having advanced on the path that directly leads to God realization. Generally, the different religious practiced are believed to be the paths that lead to truth. But in fact, these various ways only lead one to the real path, which only one and the same. Where whether it is rich by this or that means. It is only when one reaches this real path that one is supposed to have really taken a birth from the spiritual viewpoint. In the case of the lucky boy, it happened all of a sudden. On the New Year Day, 1929, Master Aspindiar become unconscious. But it was not an ordinary unconsciousness. Since he lost consciousness of the gross plane, he became conscious of the subtle plane. This came to be known generally when shortly the master restored him to gross consciousness to a certain extent, and since then, to quote his own words, he sees unimaginable light, hears wonderful sounds, smells indescribably sweet odor, and experiences different phenomena, including that of floating in space and so on. There are but poor terms to bring within imagination that which is beyond intellect. To give another illustration of his state, when he was asked to describe as to what happened to him when he became unconscious, he replied, Baba broke my skull and the light began to manifest out of it. He did not look in any way concerned when he was told that he was to be sent back to Persia. Not a single tear was found in his eyes when he departed from Mehrabad. On the contrary, he looked much amused and smiling while looking here and there through his half-closed eyes. Master
I'm
Suryavan,
sorry, who was this? Who was this? I missed
Vasanta,
it.
Vasanta,
Vasanta to
No, it's
no,
Aspandiar.
can't be
Aspandiar.
air
Aspandiar,
Persian.
Aspandiar,
Oh, this is
It's
Aspandiar.
Aspandiar Sarosh Irani.
Aspandiar
Yeah.
Sarosh
So
Irani.
he went back to
Oh,
Persia.
that's a different Aspandiar, the one that I want. There was two of them. This is one. This is another one.
Okay.
It's
I
not
thought
the
it's the
same one.
same one. Oh,
No,
okay.
no, because this
Yes.
one has a middle name Sarush. That one, the other one was Aspandiar Vesali. Yeah.
Vesali.
So,
Correct.
Yeah.
So did these people come back again to Mehrabad, either Aspendiar or Vasant, because they have very great experience right here, but I haven't seen their name later on. Means I haven't
No,
read
but
anywhere.
Esfandiar did. Esfandiar, in fact, traveled quite a bit, worked for Baba
Okay.
for a long time. But about this Esfandiar, I don't know much. In fact, I don't even know what it looked like. It looks like he was kind of on a hidden point, not so much publicized. Yeah.
So the one
Let me
you're saying has traveled is Vasali, right? And
Yeah, I think we're going to get to him
Aspandiar
because
Vasali.
this is Meher Ashram. Yeah, we're going to get to him on that. So Aspandiar Sarush is after Vasant. So so far we read two, correct?
Yeah. What's that again?
I said the
understand your
first
question.
one we talk about Vasant.
Vasant.
Yeah,
Yes.
first
This is the
was
second one.
Vasant,
Yeah, and then the
Aspendiar.
second one is Master Aspandiar, which now Baba
Yes.
sent him to Iran.
So
And the
any
third one
other
is
kids
Suryaban coming up.
came back to Mehrabad again? I heard about Alubaji, but other than that, means all these kids came back again.
Aspandiar
Okay.
himself came back. There is a
Mhm.
story about him that he had a orchard. He was a farmer. He had an orchard, which was, and he didn't have enough money to come to Baba after he had.
Sanjay, your
Is
audio is not good.
that one that we're talking about is Esfandiar Vesali.
To bear more fruits.
Yeah.
And this
Baba had
message,
him wait. Yeah, Baba had him wait from 1929 that he left back to Tehran all the way to 1962. For 40 years, he was longing and on hold. Yeah, then he came back in 1962 to Guru Prasad, not Mehrabad. At that time, Baba was in Guru Prasad. Yeah.
Yeah, Sanjay, you were saying something, but your audio
this message.
Your audio broke
Baba
up.
said
So,
that, yes, ask him to pray.
Mhm.
Yeah, I am at Mehrabad, so maybe signal here is weak. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and
So can you attempt re-saying what you said? You said something about an orchard.
yeah. He had an orchard, and but the orchard was not. 1 minute. Hey, beta, 1 minute. Come. Idhar aa. And then orchard was not bearing fruit, and he wrote to Baba that I want to come, but I don't have enough money to come. And then Baba said, ask him to pray to his trees to bear more fruits, which was kind of lightly taken by the Mandli earlier. And finally, that message was sent to him. And he started praying to his trees to bear more fruits. And it so happened that the trees actually bore, actually bear of fruits. And in the surroundings, the other villagers did not have enough, and it was very surprising that only his orchard bear so much of fruit in that area, and he earned money for him to travel to India. That's the story about him. Iraj talks in the Mandi Hall Talks website had this story.
Yeah, and more detail on that is he was a farmer, but once he was back in Iran, and he was actually very well to do. He was living in upper scale part of Tehran. But for many years, he was for his farm and his cherry orchard. It was always frozen, or they would get insect in it, and they wouldn't giving him any fruit years after years and years. But like what Sanjay said, he wrote to Baba, and Baba replied back and said, go back and talk to each one of these trees and talk to them. Let them know that you want to go see Meher Baba and see what happens. And then surprisingly, after when it was a harvest time, all these trees that was frozen, and they gave so much cherries that when he was delivering it to other location, he was able to give it to other farmers as well. So it was a very big amount that was given according to Baba's blessing, and he was able to earn money and go there and see Baba. But anyway, when he goes there, Baba ignores him, and that's a different story. But yeah, that's the story.
Okay. So next is Master Suryaban.
Yes, Master Suryaban. Do you want to rotate reading? We could. Anybody else? Mahu, you want to read for a bit?
Yeah, I like
please.
to read.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But some of these names I can't pronounce really well, so sorry for that. So the next one is Master Suryaban, belonging to the so-called depressed class, is another lucky lad to have achieved almost permanent concentration on the master. He is neither seen smiling nor weeping, but is conspicuous for his great silence and indifference towards his surroundings. He is the least talkative in the lot, and continued to manifest this silent aspect of love even when he was at home, which often provoked the mischievous boys of his village to go to the length of stoning him for the sheer fun of it. Once he actually remained indoors for 6 days to avoid being disturbed by such mischief makers and other grown-up villagers, including the Patel of the village, for whom, next page, for whom, naturally enough, the spiritual state of the boy was a sealed book, and who also caused no small annoyance to the boy in trying to bring him round to his own vulgar way of thinking. The great control master Suryaban has achieved over his mind can be easily gauged from the fact that when, on the seventh day, he came out of the house, he was again stoned, but instead of protesting or retaliating in the least, he calmly withdrew. Silent submission seems to be his watchword. How lucky he is. Then the two Mehendergi, a Brahmin youngster, provides yet a new phase of the divine feelings. He was the last to leave the ashram at the time of the temporary close-up. On coming to know of the separation, he began to weep and wail, and continued crying for 3 successive days without being able to check himself in spite of his best attempts to do so. If you don't return soon, he said to the master amidst soul-stirring sobs, I would start wandering all over the world crying out your name. I don't mind if I am not elevated on the path. Only keep me with you. Formerly he was very fond of studies and sports, but now he is so very full of feeling for the master that he simply abhors all studies and games. The depth of his feelings may well be imagined from the fact that all thoughts of home and relatives are now foreign to his mind. You see the transformation? Master Shahu Mahar and Hurmazd provide the finest pair of meditators in the Meher Ashram. The former once asserted, if there is happiness in the world, it is only found in meditation. And true to his words, when he sent home, Master Shahu had set up a little hut for him in a quiet little corner outside the house, wherein he used to remain absorbed in meditation for nearly 18 hours every day. The name of Ali Akbar, the Majnoon of the Meher Ashram, has already been mentioned in previous chapters. The intensity of his love towards the master is unique. None can come to the level of his highly active love, which always keeps him on the stir. He is seldom seen in one place or sitting calmly. When he first joined the Meher Ashram, he used to feel quite disinterested in discussions about love and spirituality. He would not only show open disinclination for divinity, but used to fight shy of all such subjects and would remain as aloof as possible from meditation and concentration. But all the same, at the first exit of Ali, the hero, Ali Akbar became all of a sudden surcharged with the divine grace of the master. He began to roll and reel in the dust, quite literally, as a fish just out of water, till he would come into the master's contact, whom he would try to, and I can't read this because it's highlighted, try to, Kartik, a little bit upward, please.
Enfold in his little arms. Enfold.
Yeah. Yeah, let me read it again. Okay. The moment about, no, we have to go further. He began to roll and reel, yeah. He began to roll and reel in the dust, quite literally as a fish just out of water, till he would come into the master's contact, whom he would try to enfold in his little arms as furiously as a moth tries to devour the lamp. As some months he became a little cooler, but to this day he remains as active as a top. Even a stranger would not fail to notice the great twinges on his face and twitches about his limbs when he is in the presence of the master. The moment His Holiness shows an inclination to receive him, Ali Akbar literally takes a bound towards the master and begins to fondle with him in a very violent way. It is not enough for him to embrace or kiss the person of the master a number of times, but invariably he would bite and scratch His Holiness all over the body. It is always with an effort that the master can free himself from Ali Akbar's hugging caresses once he allows this. Next page. I just finished. Huh?
Are you able to see the next page?
No, I don't. I only see the title, Messengers of Love.
Now?
If you can roll it up, please.
I have, so I don't know what's going on today. It's all now can you see it?
We can see the heading Messengers of Love and page 161. At least that's what I see.
Now it came. Now it came. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kartik.
So can I do one thing? I'll stop sharing and start sharing again. Maybe there's something funny going on.
Yeah.
We've never had this problem because yeah. Okay, so again, we'll just go from the last line. It is always.
But nothing is shown. Sure.
Now?
No, it doesn't show.
Wow. Anybody?
Now we're saying it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It is always
from
with
it is. Yeah.
Sure.
Please.
Okay. Yeah. It is always with an effort that the master can free himself from Ali Akbar's hugging caresses once he allows this. And then we go to next page. No, it's not coming.
Wow.
Okay. Now this intense lover to clasp him. The violent throbs of his heart are too thrilling to allow Master Ali Akbar to meditate. Oh, I'll have to read this again. The violent throbs of his heart are too thrilling to allow Master Ali Akbar to meditate. He never meditates and has never meditated. All that he does is hard labor that demands intense activity. He generally passes his time in wrestling with the Mother Earth with the help of spades and pickaxes in trying to grow flowers, fruits, and vegetables for his Baba. And consequently, both at Toka and Arangan, small patches of shrubberies have come to be a part and parcel of the Meher Ashram. There is yet one more little lover of the master of this violent type, although not so very intense as Ali Akbar. Master Khuda Bakhsh can be said to be next to Ali Akbar in all the other details of his feelings for His Holiness. Quite in contrast to the above two is Master Murati Campbell. He is almost an automation. No, I'm sorry. He's almost an automaton. He carries
I don't know
out
what
the
an
master.
automaton is. By the way, that name
I
is
don't either.
Maruti Kamble. Maruti Kamble.
Oh, good. Maruti Kamble.
Yeah,
He's
that's it.
almost
You got it.
an, yeah, I'm learning. Maruti Kamble. He's almost an automaton. Where are we? He carries out the master's instructions with mechanical precision, and knows no restlessness, no emotion, save that of enjoying the proximity of His Holiness. Master James Titus, is that true, Titus? Master James Titus is another sincere aspirant.
Titus is the way that's pronounced. Yeah, Master James Titus. So if you remember in the breakup of the groupings and communities, there was only one Christian, a Christian from India. So that must be Master James Titus. So,
yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is Christian name. You're right. Master James Titus is another sincere aspirant and one who meditates from the bottom of his heart. His one longing is to see the Master internally so that he can always have His Holiness before his eyes, even when he is separated. He is so sincere that he has frequently followed the Master's instructions to the letter. For instance, once in the course of a lecture, the Master conveyed that they all should know themselves to be spirits and should forget that they were bodies. And the next day, Master James was marked to be silently but actually arguing with himself the same point through frequent gestures toward his own body. I hear. Next page. Master Tukaram is very emotional, and the reader would remember how keen he had once been at Toka in insisting upon the Master to transfer his sufferings to his own little shoulders. He is also very resolute and decisive. Master Chahabu Sana is no less remarkable in as much as he can be called without the least fear of exaggeration, the personification of humility, submission, and surrender. Masters Jamshid and Babu Sana, although keen meditators, are rather of a desperate type. Their impatience for quick results knows no limit and keeps them wavering like the waves, which never get separated from the ocean in spite of all their tossings and struggle. To sum up all the above attributes, more or less is to introduce Master Daulat Padir, who well represents an admixture of all the above feelings, emotions, and tendencies in his character and conduct. There are many more who are equally warm in their feelings for the Master, but I will close the chapter with a few lines about Master Pandit, the 8-year-old lover of the Master, whose feelings have also a humor about them. Perchance the day the master would not embrace or pat him, the mischievous little pundit was sure to commit a breach of some discipline. Why? Simply because thereby he was sure to be conducted into the presence of the master for punishment, and thus attract the attention of His Holiness for himself. Whenever he is threatened by the master with expulsion from the Prem Ashram or some other punishment for his innocent but mischievous conduct, Master Pandit is ready with an appeal for a last chance. He was a
Wow,
bold
that's
man.
interesting.
Yeah, for 8 years old, right?
Yeah.
Which is never really meant to be the last. At such moments, he would begin crying as loudly as his little lungs would allow him and go on yelling out his pet phrases. Please give me the last chance. You are a diva and I am but a little boy. Oh, why do you become so harsh with me? Ari diva, I will never do it again, and so on. The result, of course, would be a free pardon and an embrace from the master.
Deva
Wow.
means God. Are Deva. I think it's Are Deva and Deva. So Deva is basically master, and then Are is oh God.
Oh, Deva. So I thought this was Deva.
Yeah.
Deva. Oh, very nice. Can we
Yes.
talk a little bit, Kartik?
Sure.
Yeah, just I'd like to make a few comments. You
Sure.
know, it's the way that this first of all, I'm well, you know, I should I say impressed? No, I mean that he calls each one of these boys a master. Ramjoo calls each one of these boys a master. Can you believe it? Even the 8-year-old, he calls him a master.
No, so I think Mamaji nailed it, right? So I think it's more the British usage or the traditional usage, which is not popular in America, where you call kids master. So when you refer to adults as Mr., minors are referred to as master. So when you call out names in school and stuff like that. But that's a good point that Mamaji made, where he said that it's also a pun because many of them were already on the planes. These kids, they had experiences. So
yeah.
Though I believe Ali Ramjoo, I mean the author is clearly using it in the first sense, in the first meaning of the word master, but it could be taken in the other as well.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I didn't find his writing to be an English, but definitely it's not American English.
Yes,
it's more
not.
closer
It's very
to the
traditional.
English.
It's British.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But what I wanted to actually share, or maybe other like to share too, is, you know, certainly these are the examples of people who could certainly earn the title of lovers of God. You know,
Sure.
Just being even Kartik in the plains doesn't make you a great lover. These people were really, I mean, these boys were really the chosen one. Baba talks about the chosen one. And he also talks about sometimes this chosen one are chosen because of the past link with him, with the avatar at this age. I mean, in probably previous avatarhood and so forth. But just, you know, because a boy as at the age 8 or 10 or 12 or 14, I guess maybe a few of them were 16, I don't even remember, but they're not so much in their mind level, you see. They're all sitting on their heart. And what does the heart know? Just the love. Love who? Love the master, because they were in close proximity from him. But perhaps Baba knew that these souls are a good recipient of his love for the work that he wanted to do through them. So I'm just thinking, oh my God, where are they and where we are? Just a comment I wanted to make. We have a long way to go, in other words.
Don't despair, but remember him every minute of your life.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
I don't want to make a false claim. I can't remember Baba in
at the same time,
minute
you're
of my
right.
life. But we can certainly do our best. That's what Baba says. Do your best.
Yes.
No, I don't despair. Actually, I get very inspired by reading these. And that part of the reason I'm participating in this reading is just to allow me a time to be with Baba and hear about his lovers and so forth. You know what I mean? It's beyond intellect and understanding, especially these stories. Yeah.
True.
Anyway.
Got a question. Any other book that talks about this Meher Ashram, Prema Ashram that any of you have heard about? Because I mean, this is a fascinating phase of Baba's life, and I think Lord Meher should have references to it. But it's also worthy of even something like a documentary or even a movie, because it's so vivid. It's got so many experiences which are rather special, and Baba was obviously doing something with these kids, which was very, very special.
Yeah, going back to your question, Kartik, recently a book came out called Boys, The Boys. I don't know whether you heard of it. The authors, the author is the author. I can, in fact, I have it here on my desk. The author is Bob Mossman, very good writer, who now lives in Myrtle Beach, and Farshid Namiranian, who spent a great deal of time with, the boys. Yeah. So this one is also there, but basically this book is a collection of whatever we read here in Sobs and Throbs, and they had an opportunity to talk to Esfandiar and have him narrate his part, or Aloba, which is Ali Akbar, or a few of them. And so it's a historical account of their life from a childhood all the way to 70, 80 years old of each one of them, as much as the information is available. Yeah.
Interesting. So he actually says it's a trio. It's three key heroes. So if our book talked about, I mean, Sobs and Throbs is only about Ali. Here there are three heroes that he covers. It's Esfandiar Vesali, whom we talked about, not the Esfandiar that's described in the previous chapter. Then Abdullah Pakrawan, Chota Baba, and Syed Ali. So these are the three people covered in this. I think this is an interesting book for sure.
But let's not forget, Kartik, that writing the Sobs and Throbs was by Baba's order. As we remember in introduction, he specifically came and when he was sitting under the neem tree and told Ramjoo, Ali Akbar Ramjoo, Abdullah Ramjoo, to write about Ali. So that was a Baba's order, was a totally different level. This one is, the authors were inspired to share what they knew about these. So they start, because there are more information available about three of them and not so much about others. like that.
Sure. Anyway, just a time check. We have like 10 minutes or so and about 8 pages or lesser for the whole book. So I suggest that we read and also try to see if we spill over a little bit. Let's try to spill over and finish it so that the next Saturday we start with a fresh book after Amartiti. That be fine with everybody?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Somebody else should read now.
Okay. I will read. I didn't read, just read a couple of pages then. I will read.
Sure.
Chapter 25, The Strange End of a Strange Story. When Ali was taken away for the 4th time, one of the master's disciples rightly remarked, his father now ought to take a season ticket between Bombay and Ahmednagar. It spoke for the certainty of Ali's return. But he came back rather too soon. That is, on the 17th of January, the day on which the master started on his tour. Having slipped away so many times, it was but natural on the part of Ali's relatives to arrange a plan of packing him off to Persia. But this was also responsible for Ali to act quickly. This time, Ali was kept under such a strict surveillance that he saw no hope of an escape during daytime. The only chance lay in a dash for freedom at night. Being alert, Ali woke up one night through the loud snoring of his guards, who were sleeping on either side of his bed. He stealthily crept out of his bed and silently unlatched the door, but found that his guards were too sharp for him. They had the door bolted from the other side too. However, a little hard thinking suggested to him a way out of his difficulty. He opened the tap of a small water tank in the bathroom, and when it became empty, he managed to shift it against the frame of the door. Then, taking a stand upon that tank, he broke one of the ventilation glasses against the frame of the door, and putting out his hand through the opening, he managed to unfasten the other catch. The guards were sleeping too soundly to hear the splinter of the glass, and thus Ali began to breathe the air of freedom once again. He was careful enough to lock his guards in the room before he set out for the railway station and eventually found himself once again at Mehrabad. This is the 5th time. After his return from the tour, the master began to get busy in reopening the Prem Ashram, or it may now also be called the Meher Ashram, since the original section so far seems to have been closed for good. 18 of the selected boys have been recalled, and after the celebration of his 35th birthday, which falls on the 17th of February, His Holiness is expected once again to resume exclusive workings for the institution. So much so that from the 21st of February, the master is going to cease giving an audience or an interview to visitors. And in the course of a year, he intends to establish the select boys firmly in the divine path. Although English will be taught to the boys by way of secular education, yet most of the time throughout this period is intended to be devoted to their spiritual training only. It is never easy and pleasant to write history, but to comment upon it when it is in the melting pot is not so very comfortable, because invariably it is the subsequent events that prove in the long run the true significance, meaning, and necessity of an action or fact of the day. And where it concerns the words and actions of the master, this is true to the letter. However, since I have shaped the subject matter of this book in the form of a story, which from that viewpoint remains unfinished, I think I owe some explanations to the reader. It was a very trivial incident, yet today it suddenly strikes me as the most suitable simile and the handiest peg on which to hang my explanations. Many years ago, I happened to call at a friend's place, and while killing time in fishing out knickknacks there, I came across a very artistic golden picture frame. But the picture it contained appeared to me nothing short of an ink-splashed page, torn off a mischievous schoolboy's rough drawing book. What a pity, I could not help calling out to my friend, that you have spoiled this fine frame with such a rubbish. It was in fact a masterpiece in watercolors, but I had so far seen none before. You mean to say that? The friend tried to explain, but I felt so sure of the poor show the picture gave in my hands that I did not let him finish the sentence and chipped in. I mean, what I actually see. Then you don't see at all, my friend, replied the gentleman, without in the least being affected by my wholesale condemnation of his choice. Come, I will make you see it. And with that, he snatched the frame from my hands, jumped on a sideboard, and fixed it at a certain height. Then, holding my sleeves in an authoritative manner, he dragged me to a certain distance and simply spoke the single word, see. There was no need of an argument. All I could do was to scratch my head in silent submission to the triumph of my friend. That picture now looked very lifelike for all the red, white, and black scratches on it. It was a realistic depiction of the Xmas morn, the Christmas morn, the title that it bore. But today, when I remember the fine painting in imagination, I clearly see how the very crudest blots of red and white in it were transformed into the features of the two musicians in the snow-clad street that the masterpiece depicted when it was placed at a right distance. Hence, if the question of a slight difference in distance and position had made me so sweepingly underrate that piece of art, I am sure that my ignorance of art would have forced me to take the artist, had I seen him in the course of painting it, as one having gone stark mad. Similarly, this book, whatever it may be called, is really a sidelight on the master's eventful career, and as such, in the absence of the past and certain future links, is sure to appear an incomplete picture with many inexplicable scratches and splashes on it. But it is not only to give relief and expression to this meaning alone that I have given so much prominence to this trivial but telling incident of my life. I rather mean that since the year 1922, 9 years after becoming superconscious by the grace of Hazrat Babajan, the time he became a conscious Sadguru or a Kutub, that is, in simple words, the completely superconscious plus completely gross conscious personality, through the grace of his second Guru, Sri Sadguru Upasani Maharaj, the master is busy with a certain working, and I want to call this working as the picture in the course of these explanations. The silence, fasts, confinements, the mission to the West, and various other activities and movements of the master have been described in the foregoing pages as to appear the motive power that brought about the general subject matter of this book, the origination of the Meher Ashram and the existence of Prem Ashram. And to the best of my knowledge and belief, this is nothing but the gospel truth. Although these actions and movements of the master alone created the above monumental facts and institutions, they were not solely indulged in and acted upon for these results only. They rather were and are some stray brushwork of the great divine painter in connection with the picture that he has been painting since the last 7 years, which will surely be presented to the world one of these fine days. This again is, I'm reminding the readers, we are in 1929, and he's talking about 7 years since Baba got super consciousness in 1922. That's the kiss from Babajan. As an illustration to my contentions about the picture, I would quote a recent explanation that the master was pleased to give when asked as to the reasons of his observing a fast after attaining perfection. His Holiness conveyed, when I observe a fast, it amounts to all the people of the world having observed it, since it is none but I in all. This incidentally explains the reason as to why, in spite of being the Sijda, Sajid, and the Masjood, that is praying, prayer, and prayed to, all himself, the Arabian prophet still prayed 5 times every day. And the reference here is to Muhammad. So Sijda is praying, Sajid is the prayer, and prayed to is Masjood. That means all the people of the age in which the prophet lived got the impressions of having prayed themselves. Similarly, when Christ condescended to be crucified, although he had powers to raise the dead, it meant the whole world being crucified in the path of truth at the cost of the few who took part in that ghastly deed. Since the few were not one with truth, the consequences of their foul deed remained restricted to themselves, while the impressions of being sacrificed in the cause of the truth were shared by the rest of the world through the omnipresent link, the Christ, whose own words, my blood will wash the sins of all, corroborates this great fact. In spite of all the explanations that I have understood and the close contact for years that I have had the privilege and good fortune of enjoying of him, the master remains a mystery to me so far as his words and actions are concerned. Hence, as regards the hero, I can say no more than repeat once again that Ali will surely become as full of divine love as the real Ali of Arabia one day in the near future, though perhaps he may yet have to pass through some more purifying ordeals on one pretext or the other. But from the real point of view, it will make no difference in his heart, which is already full to the brim with spirituality and lacks but a complete manifestation pending the final touch. From the spiritual aspect of religion, I am quite one with the disciple of Hazrat Bayezid Bistami, who once questioned whether God was great or his master. Replied, I only know my teacher, I know no other than him, and he is greater than all beside. And although I may differ considerably in the interpretation of the spirit of Islam from the majority of the Orthodox Muslims, yet where the temporal side of religion is concerned, I still owe my allegiance to the mighty music of the heart, Muhammad, and as such, I feel I have a right to appeal to my co-religionists, including the father of the hero, to desist from playing into the hands of the devil. May saner counsels prevail. Amin. Printed by Chinchorkar. Well, okay, these are just alterations.
I forgot, when was this written? I mean, it's been a while we read the introduction.
1929.
So he finished it in 1929.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's why he
this,
has a fresh account of all the boys and what happened and so forth.
yeah, but I like his analogy of the painting because I am one like him who rarely can understand, especially modern art. So I struggle. Maybe it's a matter of perspective. Maybe it's a matter of understanding. I struggle many times with understanding art. But then, yeah, cool. Any other comments before we wrap up this beautiful book?
Yeah, Karthik, if you can please take to the last paragraph of the last chapter, please.
Yeah.
And I think the word master there is definitely relates to the highest of the high, Meher Baba. Can you please take to the last paragraph of the last chapter?
You mean this one, right?
No, okay, no, not this. The one before this.
Okay.
I know it's quite a number of pages, but
Oh, you mean the previous chapter? Okay.
yeah, previous chapter. Yes. Sorry. Yes. See,
Embrace
the,
that. Yeah,
the
of course. Here,
whole,
master refers to Meher Baba.
yes. So I mean, and an embrace from the master. So the the grace of the perfect master is always required. That's what that's what I want to highlight, or what thought came to my mind is that the grace and the blessing from the master is always required. The grace of the perfect master.
Indeed.
Yeah. Plus your effort.
Yes.
Sorry?
Okay.
And then the grace.
Effort and then the grace.
Yeah, of course,
effort is also part of the grace only. I mean, on a serious note, that also is there. But ultimately, God has given us that right to judge and do the right action. That limited freedom, whatever we have, we have to utilize it well. Yeah.
Yes, the intelligent action comes from our sanskaras,
Correct.
past and present.
Yeah.
Great. So we also have to decide on the next book. So given we are all going to meet, at least a few of us are going to meet in the next few days at Mehrabad, we'll use the time and common ground to decide on the next book that we're reading on starting next Saturday. Look forward to that. Mahu, your inputs, Ashish, your inputs, Mamaji, who are not going to join, and all give your inputs. Meru, you can give inputs too.
Yeah. And we can have this closed out over a cup of tea at my place.
Lovely. Yes, sure.
How many people? How many people are going for Amartiti? I'm asking. How many people?
So from this call,
this is Ashok. I'm going.
From this call, it will be Ashok, Sanjay, myself. That's from this call. Yes. But there's going to be Kama as well. Then, I think that's it.
4.
And many others.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. And I'm glad to announce that on 31st, I got the 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. cabin duty.
Wow.
Lovely.
I mean,
where cabin duty were?
Baba's cabin. Yeah.
Oh, Baba's cabin. Oh, how nice. Zahra is in charge of that. Yeah.
You are being put to test. You are being put to test. 4 a.m. in the morning. Excellent.
No, it's okay. 4 a.m. is
good.
4 a.m. is divine time.
Yeah.
It said that 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. is divine time.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 to 5. Yeah. That's the best time. I used to go for Amartiti all the time. But now I have switched to July. I already bought my
Silence
ticket
Day.
for July.
Okay.
Silence Day, yeah. But
So see you in July, Mahu.
yeah, see you in
Yes.
July. It's so wonderful. But there's nothing like Amartiti. So I wish you guys a safe trip. A lot of Baba is pouring his love so generously. So take as much as you can.
Absolutely. Look
Yeah.
forward to that. Jai Baba.
Yeah, Jai
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 Baba.
Baba,
Baba.
everybody.
Jai
So
Jai
with that,
Baba.
we
Happy
wrap up
Amartiti to Jai Baba
Yeah.
is coming.
all of
Jai
you
Baba,
guys.
thank
Yeah,
you.
but see you tomorrow for discourses. So don't
Yeah.
forget, that's still on. Yeah. Jai Baba.
All right.
Jai
Okay, I'll
Baba.
stop recording.
Yeah.
But we